Next, I want to create another query, only this time I don't want to create it in design view like we did in the previous training video. I want to use the wizard. Microsoft has what are called wizards. It's a little step-by-step questionnaire. It's going to ask you a bunch of questions, what you'd like to see in your query in this case. You give it the answers, and then when you're all done you click finish and it pops up the query for you. And before we get started using this wizard, I want to let you know that I want to base this query off of two tables, not just one like we did in the previous training video. The two tables I want to include in my query are the computers table and also the manufacturers. Now in the computers table I may throw things in my query like the asset tag, maybe the purchase price, and the date received. The only thing I don't want in there is the manufacturer ID, because that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, what is 3? Is that, Dell, HP, Spytech? Who manufactured that computer? So if I click on the related table here, I can find out that the manufacturer ID number 3 is Macron. Now how do I know that these tables are related? Well, one way to find out, probably more specifically, is going to the Database Tools tab, to the Show Hide group, and click on Relationships. And you can see right here, here's my computers table. Here's the connector or the related line that connects it to the manufacturers table. Quick overview again of relationships, so I can pound this in your head as it were, is that over here in my manufacturers table, I have a unique manufacturer ID, the primary key, that says there can be no duplicates and the field can't be blank. So if I type in the manufacturer's name, I want a unique ID tied to it. So when I use Spytech, Global Tech, or some other manufacturers of computers like Dell or HP, I got a number, a unique ID for each manufacturer. Now that number, unique ID, I placed a corresponding field over here with the same data type, that the manufacturer ID has to be a number, and I put it in the computers table. So anytime I create or I purchase a new computer, I put in the barcode, I'll actually find the manufacturer's ID, which I have over in this table, and if it's like Macron, I think the manufacturer ID was 3 or was it 4? In any case, I'll go ahead and type in the number 4 if that computer was indeed purchased from Macron. And then so what happens, every record I create over here, I'm going to have a corresponding manufacturer's name over in this table. So I can keep them separate because, I don't need the manufacturer's name in some of my queries when I just want to look at the total cost of our computers, let's say, for this year. I don't need to find out who I purchased them from. And then again, talking about the relationship, I only have one unique ID for each manufacturer. For HP, for Dell, for Spytech, they each have a number, a unique identifier. Okay. However, when I relate it to the computers table, I'm going to have many manufacturers because let's say I've purchased 50 computers. Out of the 50, I'm going to purchase some from the same company or the same manufacturer, or in this case it's going to have the same manufacturer ID. So maybe 10 of those computers are from Macron. So it's going to be listed 10 times here. I'm going to have a unique barcode for each computer, but those 10 computers, even though they have a unique barcode or asset tag, they're all going to be from the same company. So of course there are going to be many here, that infinity symbol, potentially more than one record. So with the relationships figured out, and the manufacturers table and computers table are the ones I'm going to pull into my query, I'm going to go ahead and right click on one of these tabs, left click on close all so I can get rid of all of them. To get started, come up here, click on the create tab, come to our other group, and click on the query wizard. Gives me a pop-up menu here of the different types of queries I can choose from, 4 to be more specific, and when you click on them they give you a description over on the left hand side here. But to keep it simple, at least for right now, we're going to do the simple query wizard. All that means is that there are some tables, one table or more, that I want to be able to pull data from. Of course, if it's more than one table, just make sure that those tables are related, okay? And then click OK. Goes to the next step, asks me the next question. It says, fine, which fields do you want in your query? And you can choose them from one or more tables. Just make sure that those tables have a relationship, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more later about how you can pull information from one table that's not directly linked, but indirectly linked through another table. In any case, we'll continue here. When we click on the drop down arrow, you're going to have a list of all the tables in your database and any queries, because you can also create a query based upon another query. You can refine your queries down, if that makes sense. But right now all I have in my database are tables. I want my computers table, okay? I want to select the fields by either double clicking on them. When I double click on the asset tag, it adds it over to the right and lets me know that those are the selected fields I want in my query. If I want to get rid of it, just double click on it, moves it back. Or you can use these arrows, that's fine. Just click on the single arrow, it moves it over. Click on the all arrow, moves all of them over. Click on the all arrow, moves them all back. So we'll double click on the asset tag, date received, and purchase price. Double clicked on all those. And then I also want the manufacturer, not the ID, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that really means nothing to me. I want the name. So I'm going to click on the drop down arrow, go to the manufacturers table. Remember, that's related to the computers table through the manufacturer ID, same data type. But instead I want to pull up the name of the manufacturer, not their ID, and double click on that. The cool thing about the query here is being able to pull data from two separate tables And you don't have to have the manufacturer ID from both tables listed in the selected fields. See, behind the scenes, Access already knows that they're already linked. Just because we're not adding them to be seen in our query doesn't mean it's not going to link them up anyways or show that relationship, okay? So we're fine as long as we know behind the scenes the relationship's already there, okay, on the database tools. So we're going to go ahead and click Next. It's going to ask us, it's going to say, well, would you like a detail or summary of the query? In other words, the detail is going to show every field of every record. The summary, if you have fields that can be added up, it can group them together. In fact, this little preview pane over here kind of gives you a synopsis here of what to expect. So if you have one table that has a bunch of fields, records, another table, a bunch of fields, it's going to show all of them. And it's going to list them down here, as you can see, 1AA, 2AA, 3BB, and then go to the next table and continue on adding all those fields, all those records. A summary just saying, look, I have some data, I want to be able to add them all up. We'll cover that in a later query, but right now we'll keep it simple. We'll just say we want to show everything. Go ahead and click Next. And it says, what do you want to title your query? Well, by default, it's going to give us the primary table, the first table we selected, TBL Computers Query. That doesn't work for me. How about if we just go ahead and click and drag and delete at least the first part, TBL Computers, and just type in QRY, the three-letter prefix of what we're trying to create, which is a query, okay? So QRY, let's delete the query. That doesn't make sense. And say this is a query on computers. Because it is. I mean, we have most of it coming from the computers table anyways, and one from the manufacturers. When we're finished, we can do one of two things. We can say, look, open the query to view the information. It goes right to the datasheet views so we can actually see the results of our query. Or we can go right to the design view if we have more changes to make behind the scenes before we actually view the query. Right now, we'll keep it simple. We'll just say open to view the information and click Finish. Well, it does two things. First of all, it opens up the query, right? And then it adds it over here under our grouping of all Access objects. In other words, it'll show us everything. It's not just tables. And it shows it right here, the query. So we have all our tables here in one group, and we have our first query here, congratulations, in its own group. And then we have, of course, our next query that we created here in its own grouping here. So let's take a look, make sure it's all legit. I mean, we've got our asset tags, date received, purchase price, that's all from the computers table. And then we have the manufacturer's name from the manufacturer table. Well, is that true? Well, when I look at my computers table, let's look up 2011, the asset tag, computers. 2011, the asset tag is 1. So remember number 1. Let's open up the manufacturer's table. Number 1 is global. So let's go back to our query. Number 1. It doesn't show the ID number 1, but it shows its name. So it actually is displaying the truth here, the actual name with the ID, although I didn't want to see the ID, to the computers here. The asset tag, date received, and purchase price. Keeps it all together. Fantastic. And like I said, you can always customize this query by right-clicking and going to its design view and left-clicking, and there's the design. And in the design view, we have our fields added below from the tables up above. We have the manufacturer's table and the computers table. So I can pull up any field in this table and any field in that table, and I will get a functioning query. As long as, again, I come back to the database tools, the relationships, and it has the relationship. If I go ahead and close out of the relationships, again, you can see that relationship carrying over in here into the query. Okay, so there's a nice visual here to let us know. And then I can, remove the fields from down below, add additional fields down below if necessary, but I only have 2 fields here, so there's not much to say about this query. But know that you can, after the query wizard, make additional changes by changing it to its design view. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.